Have you ever found yourself missing someone so deeply that their absence feels almost more real than their presence once did? Perhaps it happens in the quiet moments, when the day finally slows down and there is nowhere left to run from your thoughts. Perhaps it happens when you hear a familiar song, pass a familiar place, or catch the scent of a perfume that instantly transports you back to another time. What makes this experience so mysterious is that sometimes the person is no longer part of our lives, yet somehow they continue to occupy our hearts. Why does the human soul hold on so tightly? And more importantly, what might God be saying to us in those moments when we could not stop missing someone? This question has echoed throughout human history. Ancient poets wrote about it. Prophets wrestled with it, philosophers analyzed it, and ordinary people, generation after generation, have carried this same ache within their hearts. Today, we will explore this experience through a theological and historical lens, seeking wisdom rather than easy answers, because perhaps the pain of missing someone is not merely a sign of loss. Perhaps it is also a sign of love, and perhaps God has something profound to teach us through it. To begin understanding this subject, we must first recognize that longing is deeply woven into the human condition. The Bible does not portray human beings as detached creatures who move through life unaffected by relationships. Quite the opposite. From the opening chapters of Genesis, humanity is presented as relational. People are created for connection, for companionship, for community. This means that attachment is not a weakness. It is part of our design. When we love someone deeply, they become integrated into our lives in ways we often do not fully understand. Modern psychology confirms something similar. Researchers have found that meaningful relationships literally shape the way our brains function. Memories become linked to emotions. Experiences become connected to specific people over time. The presence of another person becomes part of our emotional landscape. When that person is gone, whether through death, distance, separation, or changing circumstances, the soul experiences disruption. The pain is real because the connection was real. This is why missing someone can feel so overwhelming. Yet many people secretly wonder whether their longing indicates a lack of faith. They ask questions like, if I truly trusted God, would I still hurt this much? If I prayed enough, would these feelings disappear? Why can't I simply move on? Interestingly, Scripture rarely condemns human grief. Instead, it often validates it. Consider the life of King David throughout the Psalms. David expresses intense emotions. He mourns losses. He cries out in loneliness. He remembers people and circumstances from the past. Far from suppressing these feelings, he brings them into conversation with God. This pattern appears repeatedly throughout biblical literature. Faith is not presented as the absence of longing. Faith is presented as bringing our longing before God. That distinction matters. One of the most moving examples appears in the story of Jesus himself. In the Gospel accounts, Jesus experiences profound emotional connections. When his friend Lazarus dies, Jesus weeps. This moment has fascinated theologians for centuries. According to the narrative, Jesus already knows that Lazarus will be raised, yet he still cries. Why? Because love responds to loss. The tears of Jesus reveal something extraordinary. They suggest that grief is not evidence of spiritual failure. Rather, grief can be evidence that genuine love existed. This insight becomes especially important for those who cannot stop missing someone. Often, society pressures people to get over it after a certain amount of time. Individuals are expected to move on, yet human hearts do not operate according to schedules. Love rarely follows a calendar. Theologian Nicholas Waterstoff, reflecting on the death of his son, once observed that grief is the enduring presence of love after loss. While different traditions may express this idea differently, many find wisdom in the notion that sorrow and love remain connected when you miss someone. You are not merely experiencing absence, you are experiencing the lingering reality of a relationship that mattered. However, there is another layer to this discussion. Throughout Christian history, many thinkers have suggested that human longing points beyond itself. Saint Augustine famously wrote that the human heart remains restless until it finds rest in God. At first glance, this may seem unrelated to missing a specific person, yet Augustine's insight invites deeper reflection. What if every earthly relationship awakens a deeper longing? What if the beauty we experience in human connection is partly a reflection of something eternal? In this view, the pain of missing someone may reveal not only our love for that individual, but also our deeper desire for permanence in a world marked by change. After all, one of the hardest aspects of life is its impermanence. Children grow up, friends move away, relationships evolve, loved ones die. Nothing earthly remains exactly the same. Human beings instinctively resist this reality. We long for permanence. We long for reunion. We long for a world where meaningful connections are never broken. The biblical story speaks directly into this longing. Rather than denying the pain of separation, it acknowledges it while pointing toward hope. This hope does not eliminate grief, but it offers a framework within which grief can exist. Historically, many believers found comfort in the belief that love is not meaningless simply because life is temporary. The relationship mattered. The memories mattered. The shared experiences mattered. Nothing can erase that reality. Another fascinating example appears in the Old Testament story of Jacob and Joseph. When Jacob believes that his beloved son Joseph has died, his grief is overwhelming. Years pass, yet his sorrow remains. This narrative reminds us that deep love often leaves deep marks. Some wounds do not disappear quickly, and the biblical text does not shame Jacob for that. Instead, it portrays him as profoundly human. This brings us to an important question. What should we do when missing someone begins to dominate our thoughts? How can we honor love without becoming trapped in the past? One answer may be found in the biblical concept of remembrance. Throughout Scripture, remembering is often portrayed as a sacred act. People remember God's faithfulness. Families remember significant events. Communities preserve stories across generations. Remembering is not the enemy. The challenge is learning how to remember in a healthy way. There is a difference between remembrance and captivity. Remembrance honors the past. Captivity refuses to live in the present. One allows love to become wisdom. The other allows sorrow to become a prison. This distinction requires patience. Healing is rarely instantaneous. In fact, many spiritual writers describe healing not as forgetting, but as learning to carry memories differently. At first, memories may feel like sharp wounds. Every reminder hurts. Every recollection triggers tears. Yet, over time, something often changes, the memory remains. But the pain gradually transforms, the relationship becomes part of a person's story rather than an interruption to it. Many people discover that the person they miss continues to influence their lives in meaningful ways, perhaps through lessons learned, perhaps through values inherited, perhaps through acts of kindness inspired by their memory. In this sense, love continues to bear fruit. The relationship is no longer physically present, yet its impact remains. There is another theological insight worth considering. Sometimes people miss someone because they never received closure. A conversation remained unfinished. An apology was never spoken. Questions remain unanswered. This can make longing especially painful. Human beings naturally seek resolution, yet life does not always provide it. Many biblical narratives reflect this reality. Not every question receives an immediate answer. Not every tension is resolved within a single chapter. Faith often involves learning to live with uncertainty. This does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means acknowledging what cannot be changed while remaining open to future healing. For some viewers, the person being missed is someone who has passed away. For others, it may be a former friend, a parent, a child, a spouse, or perhaps someone who simply drifted out of life. Each story is unique. Yet beneath these different circumstances lies a common human experience. The experience of loving someone whose presence is no longer available in the way it once was. If that describes you, consider this possibility. Your longing may not be a sign that something is wrong with you. It may be evidence that your heart is functioning exactly as hearts were designed to function. Love leaves traces. Meaningful relationships shape us, and the ache you feel may testify to the value of what was shared. Of course, this does not mean remaining stuck forever. Growth remains important. Life continues. New relationships emerge. New opportunities appear. Yet moving forward does not require erasing the past. One of the greatest misconceptions about healing is the idea that recovery means forgetting. In reality, many people heal while still remembering. They heal while still loving. They heal while still occasionally missing someone. The difference is that the memory no longer controls them. It becomes integrated into a larger story, a story that includes both loss and hope, both sorrow and gratitude, both endings and new beginnings. Perhaps this is one of God's quiet messages for those who cannot stop missing someone. You do not have to choose between remembering and living. You can do both. You can honor what was while still embracing what is. You can carry love forward rather than leaving it behind. And maybe that is why Scripture so often speaks of hope not as denial of pain, but as companionship within pain. Hope walks alongside grief. Hope sits beside longing. Hope reminds us that absence is not the whole story. As we conclude, let us return to our original question. What might God be saying to those who cannot stop missing someone? Perhaps the message is not a command to forget. Perhaps it is not pressure to move on faster. Perhaps it is something gentler, something quieter, something deeply compassionate. Perhaps the message is this: your love mattered, your grief matters, your memories matter, and the ache you feel is not proof that you are weak. It is proof that you cared. The challenge is not to erase that longing, but to allow it to become a bridge rather than a barrier, a bridge toward gratitude, toward wisdom, toward deeper compassion for others, toward a greater understanding of the love that shaped your life, and perhaps, ultimately, toward the God who understands every human sorrow and every human hope. Now, I would love to hear from you. Is there someone you still miss today? Someone whose memory continues to stay with you despite the passing of time? What lessons, blessings, or reflections has that relationship left in your life? Share your thoughts in the comments below.